AI in modern warfare. The future is now, and it's terrifying in a cool way. So, you've played Cyberpunk 2077. You've probably spent an embarrassing number of hours staring at V's chrome arm wondering, is this actually where we're headed? Short answer, kind of long answer, that's what this video is for. Welcome back everyone. Today we're diving into one of the most talked about, debated, and frankly wild topics in modern military science: artificial intelligence in warfare. Now before you picture the Terminator walking out of a fireball, let's pump the brakes a little. We're not quite there yet, but what is happening right now in real militaries, real conflict zones, and real research labs? It's honestly more interesting than any sci-fi movie has given it credit for. We're going to cover three big things today. First, how AI warfare is different from every previous era of war. Second, what AI is actually being used for right now and what's coming. And third, how it's going to fundamentally change what war even looks like. Buckle up, let's go. Part 1, a very brief history of warfare and why AI changes everything. Alright, quick history lesson, don't worry, I'll keep it punchy. Throughout human history, warfare has gone through a few massive paradigm shifts, moments where a new technology so completely changed the rules of the game that armies that didn't adapt just lost. Think about it. The Bronze Age, whoever had metal weapons first had a massive edge. Gunpowder, suddenly your castle walls mean a lot less. The Industrial Revolution, mass-produced weapons, railroads, logistics. The side with the better factory often beat the side with the better soldier. World War II, radar, aerial bombing, nuclear weapons. Warfare went fully industrial and technological. The Cold War, precision-guided munitions, satellites, ballistic missiles. War became about information as much as firepower. Each era had a defining shift, and every time, the nations that adapted fastest won. So what makes AI different from all of those? Here's the key thing. Every previous advancement made humans more powerful. Gunpowder made your musket deadly. Radar helped your pilots find the enemy. Satellites let your generals see the battlefield. AI doesn't just make you more powerful, it starts to replace the human decision-making in the loop entirely. That's never happened before. In every previous era of warfare, the human being was still the one pulling the trigger, metaphorically and literally. Even the most sophisticated Cold War weapon systems still had a guy in a room somewhere saying, "Fire." AI introduces, for the first time in history, the possibility of a machine making life or death decisions on the battlefield faster than any human can respond, verify, or override. And that changes everything. Now compare that to how warfare worked even 30 years ago. In the Gulf War, you had soldiers on the ground, planes in the sky, and a command structure where information traveled through radios, maps, and human couriers. It was fast by historical standards, but by today's standards, painfully slow. Information lag killed people. By the time a commander knew where the enemy was, they'd moved. By the time reinforcements arrived, the situation had changed. War was a constant game of catch-up. AI closes that gap to nearly zero. Modern AI systems can process sensor data from satellites, drones, ground units, intercepted communications, and open-source intelligence simultaneously, and present commanders with a clear operational picture in real time. That's not science fiction. That's what's being deployed right now. And this is where I have to bring in our good friends from Night City. In Cyberpunk 2077, Militech, one of the game's massive military corporations, uses AI-driven systems to run logistics, manage drone swarms, and even pilot their Basilisk tank remotely. It's played for drama in the game, but the underlying concept, scarily grounded. We'll come back to that. Part 2. What AI is actually doing in warfare right now. Okay, let's get into the meat of it. What is AI actually doing in modern militaries today? Because the gap between cool concept and already deployed might surprise you. Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. This is probably the biggest current use case, and it's huge. Militaries generate absurd amounts of data: drone footage, satellite images, signals intercepts, social media scrapes, radar returns. The volume is so massive that human analysts simply cannot keep up. The US military alone has estimated that they capture far more drone footage than they could ever have humans review in real time. AI changes that equation completely. Modern AI systems, many based on the same computer vision technology that lets your phone recognize your face, can watch hours of drone footage and automatically flag vehicles, personnel, weapons caches, or unusual movement patterns. What would take a team of analysts days to review, an AI can process in minutes. The US Air Force's Project Maven, which yes, caused some controversy at Google when employees found out they were working on it, was one of the first high-profile examples. It used machine learning to automatically analyze drone footage and identify targets of interest. Think about that, an AI watching the video feed going, "That truck is suspicious." A human analyst then looks at it. The AI just triaged the entire surveillance operation. This is the Deus Ex kind of stuff, not the augmented punching through walls part, sadly, but the information warfare element that Jensen's world is built on. In Deus Ex Mankind Divided, the Palisade Blades Corporation runs AI-managed security analysis systems that monitor and flag suspicious behavior across entire city grids. Sound familiar? It should, because that's basically what modern military ISR AI does, just on a battlefield scale. Autonomous and semi-autonomous weapons systems. Here's where it gets spicy and where the ethical debates really heat up. Lethal autonomous weapons systems, or LAWs, are exactly what they sound like. Weapons that can identify, track, and engage targets with limited or no human involvement. Now, before you say that already exists, yes and no. Current systems like the Phalanx C IWS, that's the spinning gun thing on Navy ships that shoots down incoming missiles, or Israel's Iron Dome, already operate with significant autonomy. They have to. The threats they're defending against move too fast for a human to react. A missile coming at your ship moves at hundreds of meters per second. You need a machine response. But here's where it's moving. These systems are becoming smarter, more mobile, and increasingly capable of being deployed offensively, not just defensively. Drone swarms are the big one right now. We've seen Russia and Ukraine both deploy large numbers of cheap AI-guided drones. Ukraine's use of domestically produced FPV drones, augmented by AI targeting assistance, has been a major story of that conflict. And look, the Pragmata concept, even before the game's full details released, painted a picture of a near-future Earth where autonomous systems and AI are woven into every layer of infrastructure and defense. The aesthetic is almost cozy about it, like, yeah, of course the space station has an AI pilot, why are you surprised? That normalization, that's the cultural shift that's already happening in real military doctrine. Countries like the US, China, Russia, and Israel are all developing varying degrees of autonomous weapons. The debate right now isn't really, should we do this? It's, how much human control do we keep in the loop? There are three terms you'll hear in this debate. Human in the loop, where a human approves every individual engagement. Human on the loop, where the system acts autonomously, but a human can intervene or override. And human out of the loop, fully autonomous. No human sign-off required. Most current Western military doctrine says they want to stay human on the loop for lethal decisions, but the pressures of speed, scale, and adversary capability are constantly pushing toward more autonomy. Logistics and predictive maintenance. Okay, this one sounds boring, but stay with me because this might be one of the most impactful applications, even if it doesn't make the headlines. Historically, armies haven't been defeated by enemy fire as often as you might think. They've been defeated by logistics, running out of fuel, ammunition, parts, food. Napoleon famously said an army marches on its stomach, and he was right. AI is revolutionizing military logistics in ways that are genuinely impressive. Predictive maintenance is a great example. An AI system monitors the health of aircraft engines, vehicle components, and weapons systems in real time. It can predict with high accuracy when a component is about to fail, before it fails. Instead of a fighter jet going down mid-mission because of an engine issue nobody saw coming, the AI flags it during pre-flight. The part gets swapped, the mission proceeds. The US military has been deploying this on F-35s, C-17 transports, and naval vessels. The results in terms of readiness rates are significant. And for those of you who've played Cyberpunk, this is basically what the Nomad clans are doing when they use salvaged Militech diagnostic AI to keep their ancient vehicles running in the Badlands. Even fictional post-collapse societies figured out that keeping the machines running is half the battle. Cyber warfare and electronic warfare. You cannot talk about AI in warfare without talking about cyberspace, because that's increasingly where the first shots are fired. Modern militaries are using AI to detect and respond to cyber attacks faster than human operators can, to conduct offensive cyber operations by probing enemy systems and finding vulnerabilities, and to run influence operations, generating disinformation, deepfake content, and fake personas. That last one is deeply uncomfortable and worth sitting with. AI-generated propaganda is now capable enough that distinguishing it from real content is genuinely difficult without specialized tools. State actors, China, Russia, Iran, and others have already been caught running AI-assisted influence operations targeting elections, public opinion, and military morale. This is the Deus Ex villain origin story. The Illuminati in that universe run exactly this kind of operation, controlling information flows to shape public perception and political political reality, the game treats it as dystopian nightmare fuel. Real life is like, yeah, that's a Tuesday for certain agencies. Command and control. The last major current application is command and control, basically helping generals and commanders make better, faster decisions. AI systems can now synthesize the entire operational picture of a battlefield, friendly positions, enemy movements, terrain, weather, logistics, communications, and present a commander with not just information, but recommended courses of action with projected outcomes. The US military's JADC2, which stands for Joint All-Domain Command and Control, is trying to connect every sensor, every platform, and every unit across all domains, land, sea, air, space, and cyber into a unified AI-assisted picture. The goal is to make decision-making cycles so fast that by the time an adversary reacts to your last move, you've already made 3 more. It's basically real-time chess with missiles. Fun. Part 3. How AI will change warfare going forward. All right. We've covered what's happening now. Let's talk about where this is all going, because the future, friends, is a lot. The end of large armies. Here's a wild thesis. AI might make big armies obsolete. Throughout modern history, military power has been largely about scale. More soldiers, more tanks, more ships. China has the largest standing army on Earth, about 2 million active personnel. The US maintains nearly 1.4 million. These numbers matter because humans are the backbone of military power. But if drone swarms can be produced cheaply and in massive numbers, controlled by AI systems that require only a handful of operators, suddenly manpower is less important than manufacturing capacity and software quality. This has already played out in small ways in Ukraine. Small units with AI-assisted drones have been able to achieve effects that previously required much larger forces. One person with a swarm of 50 autonomous drones can surveil, harass, and interdict enemy logistics in ways that would have required a platoon just 10 years ago. Scale this up. Now imagine a conflict where one side deploys hundreds of thousands of autonomous systems, air, ground, sea, managed by AI coordinators, with human commanders overseeing broad strategy rather than individual engagements. What does the opposing army of human soldiers do against that? This is the Militech versus street-level mercenary dynamic in Cyberpunk taken to its logical conclusion. The core don't send armies of people into the Badlands. They send machines. People are expensive, emotional, and slow. Machines are cheap, tireless, and in theory, precise. Hypersonic and AI-guided weapons. Here's another frontier that's terrifying in the best action movie way. Hypersonic weapons, missiles that travel at Mach 5 or above, are already being developed and deployed by the US, China, and Russia. The problem they create is simple. They move too fast for human-in-the-loop responses. A hypersonic glide vehicle can travel from one side of a continent to the other in under half an hour at altitudes and trajectories that defeat traditional missile defense. No human decision-making chain can respond in that time frame, which means defending against them requires AI, fully autonomous AI that can identify the threat, calculate intercept trajectories, and engage without waiting for a human to sign off. This is one of the strongest real-world arguments for removing humans from certain lethal loops, not because we want to, but because the timescales involved make it physically necessary. In Deus Ex's world, the Tyrant unit operates with exactly this logic: autonomous, AI-driven, faster than human reaction allows. In the game, it's the villain's enforcer team. In real life, it's just physics. The AI arms race and great power competition. We need to talk about the big picture geopolitically, because AI in warfare isn't just a technology story, it's a power structure story. Right now, there's a recognized race between the United States and China, with Russia as a tertiary player to dominate military AI. China has been extraordinarily open about this goal. Their national AI strategy explicitly ties civilian AI development to military modernization. The concern for Western analysts is this: China has certain structural advantages in AI development, a huge population generating massive amounts of data, fewer regulatory constraints on AI research and deployment, strong state direction and investment. The US has its own advantages: leading private sector AI companies, deep research talent, and decades of integrated weapons development experience. But the outcome of this competition will likely determine the dominant military power for the next several decades. Just like nuclear weapons defined the 20th century balance of power, AI may define the 21st. And here's the pragmata connection that I think is underrated: that game's near-future setting isn't about war directly. It's about a world where global systems have quietly become dependent on AI infrastructure. The conflict in the story emerges from that dependency being exploited. That's the real national security risk that keeps analysts up at night. Not AI-controlled guns, but AI-controlled everything else that militaries depend on. power grids, supply chains, financial systems, communication networks. The first moves in a future great power conflict might not look like an invasion. They might look like the lights going out. Ethics and the big, uncomfortable questions. I'd be doing you a disservice if I made this whole video hype without acknowledging the deeply uncomfortable questions, because there are real ethical landmines here. Pun may be intended. Who is responsible when an autonomous weapon kills a civilian by mistake? The programmer, the commander who deployed it, the nation that built it. Current international law, the laws of armed conflict, were written when a human being was always behind the trigger. They don't have great answers for autonomous systems. Can an AI actually distinguish between a combatant and a civilian reliably? Even the most advanced computer vision systems make mistakes. In a high-stakes, chaotic battlefield environment where combatants blend with civilians and conditions are unpredictable, the error rates of current AI systems might be unacceptably high. What happens if adversaries spoof, hack, or corrupt the AI systems? We already know AI systems can be adversarially attacked, fed manipulated inputs that cause them to misidentify objects. What happens when that technique gets applied to a weapon system in the field? And perhaps most chillingly, does AI make war easier to start? If your military can conduct operations with far fewer human casualties on your own side, does the political calculus of going to war change? Does it become lower stakes for decision makers, even as it remains lethal for people on the receiving end? These aren't hypothetical questions. They're being debated right now in defense ministries, international law conferences, and AI ethics boards around the world. In Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, Adam Jensen, a man who is himself half machine, constantly wrestles with where the human ends and the tool begins. It's on the nose, but it's the right question. When we build machines that make lethal decisions, we have to decide what values we're encoding in them and whose values those are. That's not a tech question, that's a philosophy question. And so far, we're building the tech a lot faster than we're answering the philosophy. In conclusion, all right, let's bring it home. AI in warfare isn't the Terminator, it's not Skynet, it's not even fully the sleek chrome and neon combat rigs of Night City, though some of that aesthetic is getting uncomfortably close. It's a collection of technologies, some boring, some amazing, some scary, that are systematically changing every layer of how militaries operate, fight, and think. From satellite imagery analyzed in real time, to drones that fly themselves, to command systems that synthesize a global battlefield picture for a general sipping coffee in a bunker, AI is already reshaping warfare in ways most people haven't caught up to. And the changes coming in the next 10 to 20 years are going to be even more dramatic. The nations that adapt fastest will have massive advantages. The ethical and legal frameworks that govern this stuff are desperately lagging behind the technology, and the great power competition, particularly between the US and China, is going to play out partly in code, algorithms, and autonomous systems. It's a genuinely fascinating moment in history, the kind of shift that 50 years from now, historians will mark as clearly as the invention of the tank or the atomic bomb. And somewhere, a game developer is working on a sci-fi title set in 2060, trying to imagine what war looks like then. The wild part is, they might be underselling it. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want more deep dives into how technology is changing the world in ways that are equal parts exciting and deeply worth thinking carefully about, hit subscribe, leave a comment with what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next one.